Shawn Michaels, one of the most popular wrestlers on earth, well respected and loved by all his fans and fellow wrestlers. Yeah, this guy used to be a complete fucking asshole. Let's go ahead and rewind the clock a bit and see how HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, came to be. This right here is young Shawn Michaels in 1984, when he was a part of the NWA. No, not the one with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, but the National Wrestling Alliance. He was there for a year and then he moved to Texas All-Star Wrestling, and then the AWA, which actually had a lot of no names, which you can see in the picture here. He would start up a tag team with Marty Jannetty with his time in the AWA, otherwise known as the Rockers. Now these two were super popular, but it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows between these two. They would finally get called up to the WWF, but they were very quickly fired due to a bar incident. Apparently it was just a misunderstanding, so they brought them back in a year later. The Rockers were insanely over with the crowd, capturing gold numerous times and starring in great matches. But this all came crashing down due to a cereal box commercial. At this time, wrestlers were doing an advertisement and getting paid $5,000 each. Well, Michaels and Jannetty would find out that they were only getting paid $2,500 each, splitting the $5,000. And then an enraged Jannetty would call up Vince McMahon to tell him off. Shawn obviously said that he has his back, but he had no clue Jannetty was threatening to quit the WWF. At this time, Shawn Michaels was now ready to leave.
So I said, well, that sounds fine to me. I said, because I don't want to leave. And he says, well, Shawn, I'm going to tell you what. He said, well, if you leave, that's fine. He said, but you've always got a singles career here. You've always got a career here, period. He said, but I think that, he said, you're getting, you've matured now. You're getting to the point where, you're not fucking up like you did way back when you first came in. He said, I think you're going to be a big star in this business. Whenever you want to do it, you let me know. And I said, well, I said, really with this, with Marty having done this without asking me, I said, I gotta be honest with you. I think it's that time. Because I think that's sort of the last straw. I said, plus, I want to move on. So he said, well, just let me know. So I hung up with him and I called Marty. I said, what are you doing? Give her a note. She said, well, you said you'd stick with me. I said, well, yeah, I thought she meant,
Right.
And I didn't know that meant you were going to call and tell them we're quitting without, consulting me first. I said, because I'm not just going to get up and leave.
Now, this eventually led up to one of the biggest heel turns of the century, the famous barbershop incident, where Shawn Michaels superkicked Marty Jannetty. Fans had no clue that this would happen, and this is the exact moment where Shawn Michaels' solo career would start to kick off. A flamboyant asshole ladies man. He was so full of himself and the crowd either loved it or loved hating him. And Shawn Michaels would be eating up their reactions from everyone. This is the moment where he would start winning solo championships like the Intercontinental Championship, which he would oddly enough lose to Marty Jannetty a couple months down the line. He would then get suspended from the WWF due to testing positive for a steroid, but that wouldn't even come close to destroying his career. In fact, he would come back and have one of the best matches of his career, the famous ladder match between him and Razor Ramon. It was one of the first ever ladder matches in WWF, and these guys tore the house down. Razor Ramon would eventually come out on top, and then Shawn Michaels would have a very quick tag team run with none other than Diesel. They did win the tag team championship gold together, but quickly lost it and disbanded due to Shawn Michaels accidentally kicking Diesel in the face instead of Razor Ramon. And now, a changing point in Shawn Michaels' career, the 1995 Royal Rumble. The infamous finish with the British Bulldog, eliminating Michaels, but only one of Michaels' feet touched the ground, thus still being in the match, and then he would eliminate a celebrating British Bulldog. This earned him the title shot at the next WrestleMania, against his opponent and former tag team partner, Diesel. Shawn Michaels would hire a bodyguard for the match, Sid Vicious. Honestly, Sid Vicious didn't do jack shit. The following Raw, Sid would actually attack Shawn Michaels and beat his ass, turning on him. There was a lot going on and Shawn had to take a break for a couple of months. But when Shawn comes back, that's when things take a turn for the worse. This is when the Kliq formed and Shawn Michaels was only liked by a few men in the back.
I would say that Shawn doesn't have the greatest of track records before he got injured and left. But yeah, when I walked in the door and got in the car, and Duggan was sitting up front, and me and Shawn were in the back seat, and we're leaving that first Raw, and he said, "By the way, man, everybody hates us." He's talking about him and Scott. He's like, "Everybody hates us." And I'm like, oh, this should be fun. And then I got along with most everybody. So when we had to grab pills off people, they'd always go, Kev, you go, they like you.
Because they wouldn't want to share with
Yeah, they wouldn't, nobody would give them motherfuckers anything.
No, they would write him off TV for a couple of months claiming it was the assault. But in reality, Owen Hart accidentally injured him, giving him a concussion. But Shawn Michaels would return just in time for the next Royal Rumble, and for the second year in a row, Shawn Michaels would win. There is no stopping the Heartbreak Kid, and for the next WrestleMania, with one of the fucking coolest entrances in history, he would go toe-to-toe with Bret Hart for the WWE Championship, and finally, Shawn Michaels would come out on top. The face of the company, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And yet again, this would go to his head. His feud with Bret Hart would turn real. Michaels would go as far as hinting Bret Hart is cheating on his wife with Sonny. This really pissed him off, using personal matters in a promo. And then Shawn would go on to win the European Championship from the British Bulldog, being the first ever Grand Slam champion in wrestling. Was Shawn Michaels an asshole? Yes. Was Shawn Michaels one of the best pro wrestlers in the world at this time? Also yes. The DX faction would start, changing the history of the WWE. Now pay attention, because Rick Rude was supposed to be in the faction, but the infamous Montreal Screwjob happened. And if you don't know what happened here, here's the TLDR. Vince called for the bell when Shawn Michaels put him in the sharpshooter, claiming that Bret Hart tapped out. Michaels is a pretty good bullshitter here, huh? And since Rick Rude was a great friend with Bret Hart, he left DX and the WWF. Now Shawn Michaels would drop the European title to Triple H in a pure comedy match. I mean, just look at all the bullshit that they were doing in the ring. It kind of set the stage for what DX is. If one eats, we all eat. There was no stopping Shawn Michaels at this point. He was on top of the world, and he was here to stay. That is until he fought The Undertaker in a casket match. And one simple fuck-up would change his whole life. Shawn Michaels would herniate 2 discs in his back after hitting the corner of the casket when The Undertaker dropped him out of the ring. Now, to deal with the pain, Michaels would pop even more pills. His drug use was spiraling out of control. It got to the point where he almost ruined his relationship with Triple H, the only man that actually cared for him.
Shawn is messed up, pilled up. He's belligerent, loud, falling down, staggering. Vince calls him in, tells him, go home, done with you. Shawn goes ballistic. Walks by me in the hallway, just goes off.
You know, I went and browbeat Hunter unfairly, obviously.
And I just went off back, just in his face, screaming match back and forth, and he storms out.
Now that's another one to make me cry. I went and said some mean stuff to him and walked out. And, that sucks as well.
And I don't talk to him for a long time.
We didn't speak, I don't know. I mean, I would think at least a year, 2 years. That was, what do they call it? The rock bottom.
Michaels would finally commit to sobering up, eventually apologizing to Triple H. And after he came back, the first opponent would be Triple H. This really helped Shawn Michaels to forgive himself and get back into the ring. If it wasn't for Michaels sobering up, we would have never gotten the showstopper, the Triple H feuds, the Kurt Angle WrestleMania match, the countless matches against John Cena and Randy Orton, the second coming of DX, something fans thought they would never see. Shawn Michaels and Triple H teaming back up one more time for a DX run. They might have been the most over superstars in tag team during this time. This would eventually lead up to Shawn Michaels seeking redemption. He would want to go up against The Undertaker in a streak versus career match, arguably one of the best WrestleMania matches in all of WWE. And at the end of it, Undertaker put Shawn Michaels away with the Tombstone Piledriver, thus ending the career of the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. Thank you, Shawn Michaels, for all the memories that you gave us growing up. Now wait, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I include the run where he came back out of retirement in 2018 to face off against the Brothers of Destruction with Triple H? And there is one simple fucking reason. This was one of the worst matches in history, and every man in that ring knew. So for our sake, and their sake, let's just forget that this match has ever happened. Okay, bye-bye.